Hi everyone, thanks for joining me. My name is Corey Golden of Patty's Fly Box in Traverse City, Michigan. Winter's here, it's a great time to be tying, and so I thought I'd give you a run through of one of my more popular flies based off sales on my Etsy site. It is the Tenkara style fly, or Kebari style. It's a Japanese style fly used for Tenkara fishing, which a little bit different than fly fishing, but still in the same family. However, whether you're doing Tenkara fishing or just throwing regular flies, these are really effective flies, whether it's for panfish, brook trout. These have a great situation to imitate either a dry fly or a soft hackle. So if you're not familiar with Tenkara style fishing or Kebari flies, it's a Japanese method of fishing. Typically, these flies have a forward tied hackle, which means if you're familiar with a soft hackle, all the hackle fibers are pointed in the opposite direction. So it's often called a reverse soft hackle. This fly, when you tie it, you actually are kind of tying it in reverse. With standard catskill or streamer tying, you're often starting at the back of the fly and tying forward. In this case, we're going to start at the front of the fly and tie backwards. Now, I do tie these with a little bit of a western twist. Today, I'll be using actually a Diachi 1167 clink hammer hook. Traditionally, Tenkara flies are tied with a curved hook, barbless. What I like about these clink hammer hooks, they're really great shape just to show off that undulation of the hackle. They're a thinner gauge wire, which allows for you to go ahead and mash in the hackle. And not to mention, the Kebari style flies are a little bit harder to come by as well in the US. So these are most easily accessible at most fly shops, or if you prefer, you can tie it either on just a regular nymph hook or a scud hook. There's a lot of room to go ahead and tie it however you'd like to prefer. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started here. Today I'm going to be using a 6/0 chartreuse. I usually use a 6/0 because this fly has a thread body. The 6/0 creates a quicker base, which allows me to build up the body of the fly. So without putting tons of 8/0 thread on there. So let's go ahead and get started. Now what we want to go ahead and do is start right up behind the eye. And so we'll lock in our thread here and clip it. And what I want to go ahead and do is actually wrap forward a little bit and then back, creating a little ball of thread or a thread dam here, which actually forms the base and a little bit of a locking area for us to tie in that hackle. And if you can, go ahead and kind of do it in a conical shape with the bulk of the thread being towards the back here, which is going to allow for us to actually create a little bit of a base for those hackles to splay out again. So now that I've done that, I've established a little bit of a head here. I'm going to go ahead and take a hackle fiber. Today I'm actually using a hen cape, and you can use just almost any kind of feather you want, something that's going to spread out nicely. I do like Hungarian partridge hackle as well. If you want some finer fibers, you can use even the dry fly hackle. But for this style, or for this particular fly, I do like this speckled hen cape here. So what you want to go ahead and do is, once you've cleared off all the fluff, be careful because these hackle stems are a little bit thin and brittle. So just pinching here, you want to pinch a good amount. Sometimes you see with soft hackles, you're pinching just the very, very tip. You do want to get a good amount of stem in there so that it doesn't break. If you get too close to the end, it will snap, as I have experienced several times. So with the curvature of the hackle facing up or towards you, you want to go ahead and tie it in. This is going to allow all the natural fibers to point forward. If I flipped it the other way, they'd want to curve backwards. So keeping it pointed up, I'm going to go ahead and tie it in. And I'm going to tie in a little bit of a base here. Okay, now that's securely in place. I'm going to go ahead and clip off the excess. With that, now I'm going to go ahead and wrap back, further securing in that hackle fiber. I'm going to take the hackle fiber, or the hackle feather here, and bring the thread back behind it just a little bit. Careful not to catch any fibers there. If you do, it's okay. You can always just pinch them off. But essentially what I'm doing here is I'm bringing it back and sliding it back a little bit to create a nice locking area to keep that feather pointed forwards, and which is going to allow it to wrap a little bit better here. So then taking English hackle pliers, I'm going to grab a hold of the feather. Now, your English hackle pliers, these are really great for tying soft hackles, grabbing small if you're doing size, 16, 18 dry flies. It allows you to be pretty pretty frugal with your hackle as well. You're not getting a lot of waste. So, holding that, I'm going to go ahead and just with my fingers start to just brush the fibers forward here so they get that natural kind of twist to them. And I'm going to go ahead and start to wrap, brushing those fibers so they stay pointing forward here on every turn. And if you get them trapped backwards, that's okay. To keep them pointing forward here. It's going to look kind of messy here, but I promise you it will look okay. And now if you notice, I did wrap backward, I wrapped forward on the fly, and then to finish I wrapped backwards. This gives it a nice full look. And now I just want to go ahead and tie off the stem here. I did wrap the stem back. It does create a nice thicker base for the thread body here. And I went ahead and caught a few hackle fibers in there, and I have some that are facing backwards. So I'm just sweeping those forward here. And I'm just going to go ahead and wrap back up towards the head of the fly. And in wrapping up, it's forcing those fibers towards that little head we built with thread, which is causing them to flare out, which is actually exactly what we want. As you can see, I did get 1 or 2 fibers here, and those are just easily pulled off. You can use tweezers. I'll just grab them with my hackle pliers here. What I like about this fly, it is very forgiving. It's a fun, kind of exotic fly to tie, and it's also a great beginner style fly. It's really going to teach you how to tie those soft hackles, and also tie this fly as well, which again is just as kind of deadly in your arsenal. So I'm building just a bit of a base here. Next, what I want to go ahead and do is tie in a piece of Peacock Herl. I like to use the whole feathers just because I'm a little bit choosy about the individual strands I get. You can also use strung hackle as well. I'm going to choose one kind of midway here. I don't want them real fluffy, but fluffy enough that they're going to show off the color real well. So I'm just going to grab one. Those ones up towards the eye are pretty nice. However, the stems on them are really thin and they break really easily. So I choose kind of midway. And I'll just clip off a bit of the excess. Now, again, with the curvature, if you look at your hackle, you'll find there's a side where all the fibers face away and towards. Again, just like with the actual hackle I tied on here, the herl, you want to go ahead and get it so that all the fibers are actually facing up. And I'm going to tie this, normally you tie from the back forward. I'm going to tie this from the forward back as I wrap it here. So I'm going to tie it in. And just kind of bring it right up and bring it back. And I'm actually going to leave the stem on here. Again, that's going to help build that base so you're not having to put down so much thread. And I'm going to wrap it up kind of to the point where I want to go ahead and cut that hackle off. So I'm going to take the hackle, I'm going to give it a few turns. Now fish just love this, the iridescent nature of Peacock Herl here. And so now that I've tied that in, I'm going to go ahead and capture it, give it a couple turns down, and pinch it off, cut it off, pinch it off there. Now, what I'm going to go ahead and do is finish the fly by building the body. And it's essentially just running up and down the shank, or the hook here, and making sure any fibers you have that have escaped in the process that are sticking out are covered. You may want to go ahead and keep some of the little bits of herl out. It gives it a nice buggy look. And I'll give it one more run. You can take this as far down as you want to go on the bend. Just remember, as you start to wrap lower, it starts to get horizontal, a little bit difficult. So you always want to kind of keep that vertical advantage. And I'll build up just a touch up here. Give it that nice chartreuse color coming through. And I'm going to finish this fly with a whip finish down towards the bottom. And I'll just take my whip finisher here. I'm going to give it a little extra thread than what I normally whip finish with, because you are going around the entire fly. So be careful not to trap any fibers here. Looks like I may have gotten one. That's okay. We can fix that. would finish it. And should you so choose, you can build this body out of, you can do an entire Herl body, you can do a wire wrap body, you can use floss. Any style fly, I've seen these ribbed with gold to make kind of like a gold ribbed hare's ear style. Like I said, there's a lot of room for creativity in this style. And I'm just going to use just a touch of hardest hull. Or you can epoxy coat it if you like that finish. I just like to know that my flies are glued really well. And you may notice this builds the body just a touch, which is okay. It's clear. It's going to give it a little bit of reflective quality in the water. And so that is your basic Kebari style fly. And I'll give it a turn so you can see here. And this is also going to help the glue get all around the body of the fly. And so as this fly goes to the stream, these are going to undulate and create movement, which just really the fish really love. And that is your basic Kebari style fly. This is available for purchase on Patty's Fly Box. I have a whole variety of colors and styles available. That's Etsy, Patty's Fly Box, Paddys Fly Box, or follow me on Instagram at Streamside Scotch. Thanks for tuning in today. My name is Corey Golden, and tight lines to you all. Thank you.